we'll share out again, okay? Sorry.
I guess like the first step is like environment and understands it thoroughly.
That's what I was gonna say, just like ask for clarification. If you don't really understand it, then
They're building a new media center because they're trying to like document their culture and stuff. So we're hitting problems like they have storage issues, but since they don't have access to Wi-Fi, we can do like online.
What do you guys think?
are you guys putting your stuff?
I don't understand what in scale.
So a lot of the questions on the scales were not, I guess you would say, totally comfortable in the sense that they're not easy to answer. They're maybe uncomfortable to think about the fact that not everyone has equal access to resources. So if we're not, as a class, necessarily super comfortable about talking about those things, how do we address that with our communities? How do we think about that when we go into our communities? What does that mean for how we interact with our partners? How might that change our approach to meetings with them? Things like that. So thinking about things like that.
Well, I mean, one thing that I try to do with most interactions, I know that I'm not expert in, is that kind of give the other person that kind of the more higher position.
Mm-hmm. And how do you do that?
Kind of defer to their ideas.
Okay.
And kind of let them be the one in charge.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
I would try to like put myself in their shoes
Mm-hmm.
and like to understand the issue from their perspective
Mm-hmm.
and to see how that like differs from my perspective.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's definitely different than just having someone who's like,
I remember
this is the only thing we know.
Just that asymmetry.
the community in Columbia, and we had a lot of communication problems. But our advisor was telling us that like a lot of times like it can be frustrating to work with
Okay, so what were you guys talking about? Give me a short summary of what you talked about. Any key insights, things that came up? You guys were having good conversation. Yeah.
Basically, like, you can't, like, walk into a situation knowing that you're, like, the best person or you think that you're the best person. You have to walk in with an open mind,
Right.
realize that people are, like, different from you and
Sure.
that their values are different.
Sure. Okay, so values are different, cultures may be different, perspectives, needs, desires may be different, right? Okay. What else? What else did you talk about? Yeah.
I think a big thing is just making sure you're communicating properly and always having an open mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so communicate properly, have an open mind. Yeah, those are.
Something our advisor was telling us last semester was that working with underserved communities can be frustrating at times with issues of communication and just differences
Sure.
in culture and things like that. So like there are many cases in which people will kind of give up or they'll like stop trying, and then those communities will continue to be underserved. So
Right, and when let's say your team gives up, it reinforces those perceptions that communities may have of no one is helping them and no one is doing the work, right? So it's this vicious cycle, right? Yeah, it's a good point. What else? What else do you guys talk about? Yeah.
We talked about how, so my team doesn't have Wi-Fi, so communication is really hard because
Yeah.
we only go to the town with Wi-Fi every like 3
Right.
months.
Right.
So when we want to like check up during the project, we kind of can't because of like the way the class is structured, and we have to like keep going.
Yeah, so you guys are also working with pressures of your own, right? You're in a semester bound generally, right? I mean, of course, some of these projects span multiple semesters, but you're in a semester bound project for yourself, and you're trying to complete tasks, assuming that the world operates in a semester. It doesn't, right? So it gets really messy and it's really challenging, right? What about power? You guys were talking about positions of power and sort of what that meant when you were coming into meetings. Guys?
So, like, one thing about, like, giving the other people more equity, so to say, is to always make sure that you're not dominating them, letting them make the decisions, because ultimately it's about what they want.
Right.
And the best way to do that is to let them be the one who's kind of in the lead.
Sure, sure. And we even have to think about how we frame ourselves, right? So when we talk about, and I'm guilty of this, but you know, so working with others, well, that automatically creates a barrier and a wall, right? So we're working with a partner, might be a better way to phrase it. You're my community partner. It's a different way of thinking about who these people are. I think you also have to keep in mind that when you walk into a space, you are Purdue, right? You are Purdue University. All of the good and the bad and the ugly that come with that come with you when you enter in those spaces. And a lot of times I've found our community partners are sometimes hesitant to have their voice heard because we are Purdue. And they assume that we have that position of power, and we do in many ways. So we decide which communities we're working with, which isn't necessarily the best approach, right? But that's what we do as an institution. So that's also something to think about, is that those communities may be perceiving us as sort of coming in and ultimately with a position of power, and they do want to please us to some degree, because what if we leave? Then they don't have any help. That doesn't mean that that's a good thing, but I think it's something to really think about when you enter into these conversations, that you come as a university. You're not just, you know, Troy walking into a room, right? So it's a nuanced space. Any other comments that you guys wanted to make, that you guys shared, or sharing with the group? Okay, so I would just encourage you, these common basic tenets of being a human, right? So this is bringing the humanity in engineering. So think about being respectful. Think about who you are when you come into these places. Try and make sure that you're including as many voices as possible that are needed in these projects. And I know that is a challenge. You guys are already crippled by that because you don't have access to these communities and these spaces, and it's very challenging. I mean, you're working with partners that are in different time zones, in different countries, in different languages, and that's in some ways a horrible task to ask you to do, but also rewarding if you can make it work, right? I think the piece, though, that's really important to think about is relationships and listening. So they kind of go hand in hand. It's very difficult, I acknowledge, for you to go to Colombia and go spend a lot of time with your community. But the more you can immerse yourself in your communities and with these individuals that you are working with, the more you're going to learn about them, the more you're going to understand, the more they will understand you, and the better your designs will ultimately be. Okay? Any questions or thoughts or comments or final words you want to share? You guys are so quiet today. It's after lunch. Okay. Well, thank you very much. We do have 2 more sessions in this series. The next session talks about failures, if you will. So these are the top 10 reasons projects fail. This is put together by our community partners locally, and so they'll tell you what has made them fail in the past, something to think about. And then the last one is about our Purdue Journal for Service Learning and International Engagement. So if you are interested in writing, doing some kind of scholarly piece around your project, that would be a good opportunity for you to learn about. So, all right, well, thank you for having me, and I wish you the best.